Iran promised to retaliate against Israel after Israel violated international law by assassinating an Iranian general on Syrian soil. Iran also boldly stated to the United States if they were to intervene in the retaliation, that the United States would become valid targets. This is all according to the plan of Israel. Israel always planned to drag the United States into war with Iran and to provoke a wider regional war. This is why the Zionists in America, who claim Israel is the best ally we can possibly ask for, is out of their mind. Israel is a national security threat. So surely Biden sees through Israel's transparent attempt to drag the United States into a regional war in order to save their ass, right? Right? This is genocide Joe we're talking about. Of course he's all in for a regional war.
They're threatening to launch a significant attack on Israel. As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad.
Biden vows an ironclad commitment to Israel as they continue to break international law and provoke a regional war in the region. Guy who cheerled the Iraq and Afghanistan war and destabilized the Middle East as a senator, became president, and then led us into another destabilizing regional war. Color me surprised. What's poppin', my friends, my family? It's almost like this whole thing was planned, right? Welcome to Nick at Night Thursday edition. I have one hell of a show for you guys today. I have big shout out to my friend Ashley of Madison for Palestine. She helped me get the amazing thought leaders from the Palestinian Community Network to join our show. Ashley also helped us to get some more Palestinian activists and intellectuals. So big shout out to Ashley. We're going to bring them on after here very shortly after this first segment to talk about this terrorist state of Israel. As you guys see, I explained how Israel trying to drag us to World War III, and Biden, despite the mainstream narrative that he's some sort of victim of Netanyahu, he can't control Netanyahu. This is exactly what Biden wants. And I cannot stress this enough, like just how absolutely crazy Biden is. For one, he's criminal because you don't have to be a lawyer to understand what Israel did in attacking and killing and assassinating a top Iranian general on Syrian soil at an Iranian embassy. A gross violation of international law. It's against our law to supply weapons and give support to countries that are in violation of international law. Do people understand that we are governed by a rogue government right now? A lot of people think I say the things I do for clicks. They think I'm angry for clicks. But it's insane to me that not more people are angry about what the hell is going on. That people talking about culture warrior shit. People talk about a bunch of bullshit, and we have a bunch of criminals in our government that is ignoring laws that are on our books. But Israel launched a highly illegal escalatory attack against Iran, and now Biden and the United States media is blaming Iran because apparently Israel has the right to defend himself, but Iran doesn't. But this was always the plan by Israel, because Israel wants to get us in war with Iran. Biden wants to use Israel as a weapon against Iran. Now, do you guys understand how absolutely batshit crazy the Biden administration is? Like, we're seeing George W. Bush Jr. shit, my friends. I've said it many times before. I think this is probably the most immoral, batshit crazy administration that we've seen in human history. Like, I think at this point, Biden would have handled the Iraq war worse than George W. Bush Jr. Once again, that's just my opinion. I have nothing to prove it. I'm just showing you guys. I'm sharing you guys my opinions based on everything I've seen. If Biden and Blinken and his State Department was in charge after 9/11, they would have did the same shit as George Bush Jr. Probably worse. Biden is using other countries to provoke World War III. And I said it in a hotspot video I made before. I believe We are in the early stages of World War III. Remember, fam, in the early stages of World War I and World War II, they didn't call it that. You just had all these conflicts breaking out. You just had all these escalatory actions happening. I think when history is written, it's going to be shown how we are in the early parts of World War III right now, and that's directly because of the Biden administration, and all the seeds that was planted up until that point was because of Biden administration swamp monsters. You have Biden using his allies. This is the new strategy of the United States because they realize that Americans hate seeing their soldiers come back in body bags. They use other countries to wage war. We got proxy wars everywhere. You have Biden using Ukraine to go to war with Russia. You have Biden using Israel to go to war with Iran. You have Biden using Taiwan to go to war with China. You have Biden who sent nuclear submarines to Australia to go to war with China. Japan doubled their military budget over the last few years because of pressure of the Biden administration to go to war with China. So you have Biden using Japan, Australia, Taiwan to go to war with China. You have Biden using NATO, Ukraine to go to war with Russia. You have Israel going to war with Iran. You have Biden using Kenya to wage war against Haiti. You had the Biden administration using ECOWAS to wage war against Niger. Do you guys understand what the hell is going on right now? But people say I'm mad for clicks. Why am I the only one talking about this shit? And you got all the other channels talking about culture war shit. As we have the most fascist, batshit crazy administration that we have ever seen. I know George W. Bush did some crazy shit. I know Reagan. I know these people did some crazy shit. But you guys understand that Ronald Reagan saw Israel killing people in Lebanon. He's like, whoa there. Chill out. Biden is to the right of Reagan on this issue. And I know all those presidents did horrible things. I'm not playing lesser two evils game. I'm not doing that. I just sharing my opinion. I think if the Biden administration was in the position that every other administration was in, they would have made every single move they did in worse, based on what I am seeing. Based on the insane statements made by Lloyd Austin. He said there was no, we didn't talk about this with our amazing panel. I see you guys come in. I appreciate you guys joining us today. We had Lloyd Austin that said there was no evidence of a genocide in Gaza. I want to stress enough that these opinions are considered insane to the rest of the world. The rest of the world lost. Israel lost the rest of the world a long time ago. Man, I need to make a hotspot video on that. Man, I might write a Substack about that actually. With this rant I'm doing before I introduce my guest. How Biden is using his allies to launch global war. Let's think about it. I literally just ran that off the top of my head. But now I think about that. That's fucking wild, man. He using Israel for Iran, Ukraine for Russia, Taiwan for China, Kenya for Haiti, apparently Ecuador for Mexico. Guys, I seen that story. There's not enough time in the world. He using Ecuador for Mexico. It's incredible. He's rallying ECOWAS unsuccessfully to wage war against Niger. Guys, I just made a breakthrough. I definitely got to write a Substack about that. That's crazy. Do people understand what we are witnessing right now? I'm literally losing my mind. I'm losing my mind seeing what we're witnessing, and no one batting an eye about this. So you're gonna have ongoing coverage of this. Like everyone is watching. I've been watching this shit like a hawk, man. Waiting for this Iran shit to pop off because Iran is about to respond. And Joe Biden is more than happy to be a useful idiot for the state of Israel to drag us and get our sons and daughters murdered in the Middle East. Actually, let me see if I can find this article. Shit. I wish I saved this in hindsight. There's an article I saw earlier while I was doing my reading in the morning, doing my hotspot prep, where it was like the United States is worried about personnel being attacked by Iran because of this. And now do you guys know why I go so hard on the United States military and the failure of parents, those failure parents who allow their children to die in wars? If you're a parent and you don't pull your child out of the military, I don't want to hear a goddamn complaint. You're the worst parent of all time if you allow your child to die in United States war. Especially when they telegraphing the war they got planned. Biden plans to sacrifice United States soldiers and use them as bait against Iran. No one gives a shit about that, though. You have AOC talking about, hey guys, we gotta vote for Joe Biden because he's gonna erase student loan debt. No, she didn't say erase. I gotta be 100% clear on this. She said they're gonna ease the suffering of student debt. Ease student debt relief. Guys, whenever they say ease student debt relief, that is not canceling. So she said, we gotta, let's see if I can pull this up because I got her fucking ratio today for this shit. The progressives are trying to buy off young people. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, I want to show you guys this. I'm going to introduce my guest here in a few moments here. What the hell is it? I guess it's not that important. Why the hell can I find it? Man, my Twitter, there's too much shit going on my Twitter page. But essentially, AOC was like, we got to support buying because student debt relief. And I fucking clapped her because, like, so we at this point right now where they're trying to buy off young people. They're trying to bribe young people. All right, so Sabby covered it. So that I'm glad I don't have to do a segment on it there. You guys know Sabby, part of RBN Network. Damn, I want to show you guys my tweet, though. Why can't I find my tweet? Did they delete it? Did they delete my fucking tweet? Damn. Why can't I find it? All right, I guess I'll just move on. Damn, that's crazy. I can't find it. But nothing Democrats can do if you are a serious humanitarian should be able to get your vote back at this point. I don't believe here's my tweet. I had to fucking scroll my whole time on didn't find this thing. But I say at this point, Democrats are trying to bribe young people into supporting genocide. Sabby covered this video. No need to watch it, but you guys see. Look, this is what I'm talking about. This is the Weasel Wars, and I hope Sabby covered this. I'm sure she did. Sabby's fucking amazing. But you guys see, Biden administration just announced a plan for 30 million student loan borrowers to receive debt relief. Fam, debt relief is not cancelization. They saying relief. Like they talking about forbearance. You know, like increasing the interest loans on your student loans. Like these are the kind of legislation they're talking about now. But anyway, let's move on. I'm gonna introduce our guest. It's about 8:15. And the thing is, you guys can keep your cameras off if you want as well. Because you guys have no idea how fucking real this is. How real of a situation this is. And the enemies that we are fighting. The people that we are dealing with. And this is why I say many times, this is the biggest thing that anti-war movements in the United States missed out on. This is the biggest thing that the Free Palestine movement in the United States failed on. It's up to us, the allies of the Palestinian movement, to be to the left, to be more radical than the Palestinians on this issue. Do you guys understand? We explained before, I explained to Marianne Williamson, we had conversations about this many times before. How do you solve apartheid? You don't solve apartheid with a two-state solution. Did they solve apartheid in South Africa with a two-state solution? No, they did not. But Palestinians face massive pressure, and I'm talking about violence. I'm talking about economic retaliation for supporting the correct position, for supporting their liberation. So, fam, you guys can't blame any Palestinian, at least my position is, you can't blame any Palestinian who supported two-state solution. Because you got to understand, Palestinians are under the threat of death and murder from Zionist terrorists not to support their liberation. You guys understand, they will get economically destroyed in the United States and in the West. If you have a Palestinian that's clipped saying that Israel doesn't deserve to exist because they don't, their life will get ruined. Especially they live in the UK, especially in the elite academia. So what is our role? Our role as activists is to alleviate that pressure. We should be to their left because we don't have that intimidation. We do in a way, but not the same level of Palestinians. If any Palestinian, for example, on Facebook post free Palestine, they have Zionists that will email their employer the next day, they get fired. Do you guys understand the dictatorship of capital that we live under? That Zionists are putting pressure on Palestinians? So that's why you have Palestinians that say they support the two-state solution. They support incremental progress because they're afraid of retaliation. We got to be their shield, my friends. That is what I demand for my white allies and brown allies who stand with me in our black issues. You guys got to be our shield on black issues against the police state. We got to be the shield for the Palestinians. We got to make it politically viable and okay to support a one-state solution. Because what happens if you don't? Because people like Marianne Williamson and the white left in the United States, they condemn the one-state solution. They say, no, the one-state solution is horrible. You can't have an equal state where everyone have equal rights under the law. So when you guys do that, you guys undercut the Palestinians who are actually asking bravely for the right solution. Because you cut the Overton window off. Because they be like, oh, you believe in, you condemn the one-state solution. So that leads to you condemning Palestinians who are just simply asking for basic human rights. You're essentially taking that off the table when you undercut their demands. So what we can do, because there are actually Palestinians who disagree with me. I'm meeting a lot of Palestinian activists for the first time. I don't know their position on this. I'm just telling you guys, as someone who studied revolutionary theory, revolutionary change, I'm down for this shit because this is endgame. I'm telling you guys what the United States left fucked up on and how to improve. For a long time, the United States left undercut the Palestinians. Let the Palestinians tell you guys, whoa, buddy. That's what I want to do. I want the Palestinians to be like, whoa, Nick, you're going too far there. It should never be the opposite. It should never, ever be the opposite. And that has been how the United States left has been the entirety of my life. Was the other way. Was the United States left wagging their finger at the people fighting for their liberation. Enough. So I'm sorry I went a little long on the intro. I'm going to introduce Ashley first. So Ashley, give me a thumbs up if you're ready. I'm gonna introduce you here very soon. There we go. And everyone show some love to my friend Ashley, amazing organizer and activist who helped me organize this panel as well. You guys know I gotta hype my friends up. I'm the hype man here. Big shout out to Ashley. And I'm actually gonna need a bit of your help today because you hooked me up with a lot of these amazing thinkers. Maybe you can help me with the introductions. I'm gonna have a lot of these people explain who they are as well. But welcome to RBN once again, my friend.
Thank you. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you so much for having us and for once again offering your platform for letting voices, principled voices, pro-Palestinian and Palestinian voices on. We really appreciate it. I don't want to talk too much right now because there's a lot to be said. So let's get to the other folks. So
yeah, do you mind help me a bit with the introduction? I'm gonna have everyone introduce themselves because this is the first time I had anyone on screen. And once again, I need you guys to be flexible with us today because I just explained to you guys the tyranny of Zionists. Zionists are fascists, and I honestly explained this before. Zoya, you guys know Zoya's life. She don't show her face. Best decision she ever made. I regret having my name. I am unemployable, my friends. I regret putting my face out there. RBN either succeeds or I'm fucked. That's how I am, where I'm at. So in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been showing my face this long time. So I told everyone join this panel, don't show your face if you're not comfortable because they will go after you. I am for you. I'm for people protecting themselves. So if you want to show your face, that's great. But I understand people who don't. Actually, I think you want to try me. Do you want to try me? I'll pass to you if you do.
Oh, I was just going to say the only reason I'm showing my face is because I've been on here before. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have showed my face, but everyone already knows who I am. So anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to introduce Bushra first. Ashley, do you mind doing the introductions for me? Because you hooked me up with these guys. Maybe I'll pass it to Bushra. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Bushra.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I apologize if I say your name incorrectly.
No worries. It's Bushra. How are you doing? And thank you for offering space here. And yeah, I truly appreciate you recognizing not only safety, but sometimes it's strategic, to keep our faces on the DL because we like to maneuver strategically. So thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna pass it to Save. I'll pass it to them so they can introduce themselves, just because in the order that we went. So, and then we get started. So, welcome from. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the show.
No, thank you for having us on here. Yeah, I've been a big fan of yours for a while. I've been following you on Twitter for years, so
Nice.
I'm honored to finally be a part of your network.
It's great to be in conversation with you, my brother. And Reem, I want to get you in the conversation. Quick introduction. Thank you for joining RBN. And then I'm gonna ask you guys about Madison for Palestine and your organization. I'll pass it to Ashley if you guys want to plug that. But Reem, welcome to RBN.
Hey, thank you so much for having us. This is a really important discussion. I'm new to your space, but when Ashley said such great things about you and your show, I was really excited to be a part of this.
Once again, I cannot thank our friend Ashley enough for connecting us. This is the most important work that RBN does. Like sometimes I have fun on here. We talk shit, I explain theory, but the goal of RBN is to elevate activism, anti-colonial thought, and revolutionary change. And the best thing we can do with our platform is to elevate the voice of the voiceless. I am not a fan of Tucker Carlson at all, but he had a Palestinian pastor on his show, and the backlash he got for just having a Palestinian on the show. Once again, take Tucker out of it. That's not that relevant. But he just had a Palestinian on the show, and the backlash he got was insane because he had the audacity to hear from a Palestinian. That culture is disgusting to me. We didn't hear from Palestinian voices and people who organize with Palestinians. And actually, you have done a lot of great work with Madison for Palestine. What can you guys tell us about your group and how people can help the Palestinian movement? If you're comfortable, sharing anything.
So, sorry. So we're actually in different, we're different in different spaces. So I'm the only one here representing Madison for Palestine, but I wanted to bring kind of a diverse.
I actually want to ask you guys. With that said, I want to ask you guys about your individual activism in that case. Then, so we as a plug, and also the first question before we dive into storage, reaction, and theory and conversation is your actual organization. Because I was kind of assuming that you guys are in one, but it actually works because I would love to spotlight the work that you guys do. And also the general question I'm gonna pass to each one of you guys is how people can help. So that's the theme of the question. Then you also can talk about your organizing as well. So actually, I can start with you, and then we go Bushra, or you can pass to Bushra. I want to go around the panel.
Sure. I don't know if everyone here has an organization they represent, but they're all very principled folks, which is why they're here. We're just my group. We're just a collective. So we don't have actually like a 501c3 or anything. We don't take official donations, nothing like that. But we do try to raise awareness, not just in our own community, but online, Instagram, Twitter, which I know is kind of brushed off sometimes. It's just okay, it's just online spaces, but we try to do as much as we can. We're small, we don't have a ton of capacity, but not only try to raise awareness, but we try to challenge Zionism, things as they exist, right? And I don't just mean your typical overt Zionists that you see running around with a stupid Zionist flag spitting in your face, which I've had plenty of times. But I also mean, and I won't spend too much time on this because I'm sure plenty of the folks here can spend lots of time on what I'm about to say. So I will just, but also on, broadly what we refer to as normalizers. And that can refer to the really overt, Zionists, but also refer to really anybody, and people can go into this more, than me probably, really anybody that tries to, it's exactly what it sounds like, make the occupation normal in some way. And that specifically, that also means people who pose as our allies, right? And I'm going to just say the name. I don't care. This is going to get me in a lot of shit, but I'm already in a lot of shit. So it is what it is. Groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, okay?
Don't get me started on that.
Like, if not now, I'm gonna miss several, but there are many. They just, like they pose as allies, but once you really start digging into it, they're actually harmful to our movement. And I don't want to go into that all right now because I know we're just doing a quick introduction.
Yeah,
So
I actually kind of explained before. There are a lot of people tricking people right now. And I think speaking up on this is good, but I don't consider you good on this issue if you condemn Palestinian resistance. And there are people that do that all the time. But I won't pass it. I'm gonna go in the same order. Bushra, I want to ask you guys just the very broadly about the state of the Palestinian resistance, any organizing that you guys do, and your thoughts on any way that people can help the Palestinian resistance, just to give us warmed up.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, I've been involved for a very long time across different organizations that have a national standing or a localized standing. And I was also an organizer back home in Palestine when I lived there. And so I have folks on the ground that I'm related to, and I know kind of the ins and outs of how things go when it comes to containment or how our liberation movement is presented to the West and where this language comes from. And that's really my interest right now after doing a lot of education work, fundraising, boycott, strategy, advocacy, that have hit, pretty largely. Like, some of these things are well known, but along my principles, I don't like to say who I am or what positions I held, or it's for the people. And we, just like our martyrs, and they're the ones who have done the most. And I'm nothing to ever try to sit here and rattle off a resume like some of these influencers do online to try to build cred, when we know it's liberals who fund them and bring them the fake followers to even have a platform.
Do you mind if I in a very friendly way push back at that? Because I think if you share the work that you do, you can inspire people to get into activism.
I think at the baseline, a lot of people wait for an organization to invite them or to prompt them. And sometimes you got to create it or at least study it. And so a lot of times for me, because I worked in media a bit when I was back home, it's one thing people can start working on just from their own devices is just study the language of our resistance. Once you see that language and you contrast that to what the language is here in the West, in the belly of the beast of imperialism, you'll know something is off. And that's going to help you navigate towards the right organizations and the right people and the right platforms, the right fundraising and mutual aid. Naturally, you're going to start seeing alignment. And I think that's what's really cool about the group we have here, is that's how we all came to be. That's how we all know each other, was that alignment from our own self-initiated commitment to a principled line, rather than taking orders from like these big orgs or whatever. So one of the things as, consumers is we got to stay away from the branding that a lot of these organizations put out. And that's kind of, just to be really real with you all, is kind of one of the reasons why I kind of float across many organizations and different communities beyond just Palestinian. But I come from a working class background that matters to me. It matters to me to center the indigenous struggle and Black liberation here and understanding my context here. But that's one of the reasons why I kind of drift away from the brand name 501c3s, is because in the end, you always hit a glass ceiling. Or in my case, people try to buy you out. And that's the real of it. There's money involved. And some of us want true liberation. We're going to stay away from what tempts a lot of these weaker folks.
You don't understand how much I'm loving what I'm hearing, because it sounds like your critique of a lot of the mainstream pro-Palestinian group is similar to the critique that I have of the professional managerial class left, who greatly let me down. And I view this channel as adversarial to these people because they harmed left-wing movements. I smoke these progressive accept Palestine people. And people wonder why am I so well read on this issue? I'm not. I listen to Ashley. Ashley, when last time we had you guys on? I know you actually love to be humble. Stop. So we had you and your friends on during the anti-imperialist summit, and I told you guys I listen to the Palestinians. I'm not special on this issue. The only thing I do different than the United States left is I listen to the Palestinians and I repeat what they say. And what a lot of white saviors do, a lot of professional managerial class, they come out in front, and trust me, I know, because they do this on Black issues too. They drive me fucking crazy with this. When they come out and say, I'm the leader, I know what's best for you guys. Actually, do you want to chime in? If not, we can pass to Save. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to say one really fast. Sorry. The things that like our group kind of puts out, we try our best. We really okay, things I say, but really we try really hard to, as Bush should have said, to sort of follow the line of the Palestinian resistance to as much as possible, try to elevate their positions and voices, because ultimately those are the voices that matter. And so actually we just try to elevate those. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Before I pass it to Save, because I know you sent me this. I actually want to ask about this. I didn't look into it because I wanted to ask you live about this, because you sent me this. And I actually don't know what this is. I'll be honest, I don't know what this is. Is it learn about I don't know how to pronounce that, Tawabet? Unfollow anyone who did not uphold this. And so you guys have and you mentioned this before, very, I wouldn't say strict, because it's fair. So strict is not the right word, but you guys are very particular about how you guys side with people who want to be quote unquote pro-Palestinian. So I'll just pass to you very openly before we move on to the rest of the panel. Can you explain this and what this means, Ashley?
I can, but I would like if others want to speak up.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to pass it, feel free.
They have so many good things to say, so I'm gonna let someone else speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to actually in this conversation. This is almost like a free form conversation in a way, guys. So if you guys want to chime in, I won't mind. So if you want to just interject yourself, I won't be upset with that. But go ahead, Reem. I see you on mute, so I'll pass it to you if you want to take this on.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just wanted to say the Thawabith, they're not strict. It's just they're what I like to call healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
If you read them and you get to know them and you learn about them, it's literally what every sovereign indigenous people deserve. It's not just about Palestinians. It's having healthy boundaries, having autonomy, having agency as a people, and just sticking to your principles. I think every people follow a certain kind of thawabith, or but when it comes to Palestinians and Muslims, they're like, oh no, you're asking for too much. And that's what I think is so crazy, is that when people see this, like, who wouldn't resist someone coming into their home and killing their entire family? Who wouldn't resist that? So that's really what the Thawabith is all about. It's about boundaries, sovereignty on every level, and autonomy.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. I want to pass it to the panel. Anyone want to chime in? I'll pass it to the panel if you guys want to chime in before we move on.
Yeah, I just want to add, when somebody goes into whatever it is, you're going into a car dealership, let's say. You go in ready. You know what you want. You know what the game is, the hustle. You know those are sharks, right? It's weird to me in the West, in the US, they have created a caricature of Palestinians as if we don't know what we want and we're helpless. And I hope to the audience, I'm speaking English, right? Like, I'm kind of articulate, maybe, I don't know, but they make this caricature as if we are, and we've seen this historically, the ignorant, savage, uncivilized, has no direction, and just completely helpless, and they swoop in with their savior complex. The Thawabits came about through a collective effort, regardless of the different political group at the time, as Palestinians were fighting for their liberation back in the 50s and the 60s. And this formation came about mid-60-ish, where they became complete. And it was something that all of the groups agreed to upholding. They are the compass. And they never deteriorated, but the agenda was that if the US and the Zionists can infiltrate that space and influence certain actors there to hijack it and reduce those demands, that they might have a chance at saving the Zionist entity itself and this colonial entity that serves as a satellite to US imperialism. So anybody who has an issue with the Thawabit, I've been called purist, I've been called extreme, I've been called all kinds of stuff, because I uphold the thing our people collectively came up with. I believe in self-autonomy. and that process. But here they attack you for it because they want to insist on the US agenda. And that's where you can tell who's truly with you in solidarity and who's just there to dig under you and make you fall.
There's another word too, Bushra. It's and I only recently learned this word. It's maximalism. When you're asking for the sawabit, or when you're demanding the sawabit, your basic rights, you're called a maximalist, which is, I think, again, it's, they expect to kind of like just chip away at our sovereignty, to chip away at our identities and culture, and when you don't accept that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also highlights, this is something I've learned from all of you guys, there is a difference as to what constitutes as resistance in the West, and there's resistance in Palestine proper. Because, I mean, there's been a sort of, that's part of the downside of an issue like Palestine starting to become so large in the public sector the way that it is. In that, I mean, it's everywhere on Instagram now. Everyone who is on Instagram now sees what is happening in Gaza and knows what's wrong, but then it can also misdirect them towards the wrong understanding of certain things, like the issue of the helpless Palestinian who needs a savior, as if everything that's happening in Gaza was not spearheaded by, I shouldn't say spearheaded, it began as retaliation for Palestinians actually daring to fight back against their oppressors. And that's just a narrative that's missing right now, is the resistance in Palestine versus, you know, I don't want to say like a commodity of resistance, but, you know, there's certain, everything is resistance on Instagram, when in reality, it's the resistance in Palestine that is actively, militantly opposing the occupation and theft of their land. And I mean, in part because these social media platforms don't let us really have those discussions. But I mean, it's also how to prevent that capture, like what you were saying, of a very real revolutionary momentum becoming just siphoned into a nonprofit, or, you know, like a lobbying group, like, you know, certain lobbyist groups that I won't name, but yeah.
Yeah, the people who condemn Palestinian resistance make my skin crawl, and they are very dangerous. Like, because it's obvious what the Western governments are planning to do to anyone who resists them. The Palestinians are the people who they feel they can get away with. Do you guys have any idea what I would do if there was a hostile? Like, there's not even like a similar example I can give, but let's say there was a hostile foreign state that evicted my mother from her home at gunpoint, like many Palestinians go through, like forcibly evicted. If I had relatives that was brutally murdered by a hostile foreign state, do you guys know how quick I would join Hamas or any resistance group if I had anyone in my family murdered by an apartheid regime? Putting that off the table absolutely does not serve us at all. As someone who comes from the radical Black tradition, as someone who don't believe in liberalism, I believe in self-defense. Liberalism will get you killed. I believe in community defense, especially if you have a criminal occupier. Pacifism, that shit's gonna get us killed. If you're privileged enough to engage in it, good for you. But that's the absolutely last thing we should be condemning. But that's been the mainstay culture in the left, which has been sad. I want to ask you guys about the ICJ, because we're gonna keep this about around an hour. I appreciate you guys' time, and I would love to do follow-up conversations with you guys on this, because, like, you can't. I have done 2-hour, 3-hour shows on Israel. Like, we're just scratching the surface. So I once again appreciate Ashley for bring you guys in conversation and community with us. I would love to have you guys back on to explore a lot of different topics. One thing I want to ask you guys about is your opinion on the ICJ, because there have been a lot of debate about this. Obviously, having Israel being held accountable for their crimes is fantastic. There's concerns about what the ICJ can actually do to prevent genocide. I recently covered a case which I think is important, where you have Nicaragua charging Germany for assisting the genocide in Israel, in Palestine, I should say. They are the largest arms provider next to the United States, providing around 47% of the weapons to Gaza. The reason why this case is important because this case actually asks questions about international law. What does it actually mean to prevent genocide? What does it actually mean to maintain international law? So, in a very vague way, I'm gonna go with Reem first. I'm gonna go in the opposite uh, uh, order I did last time. I'm gonna ask very broadly what your guys' thoughts, like how optimistic you guys are about the ICJ, because I've seen a lot of varying opinions. I see a lot of people say, "Oh, this is the greatest thing ever," and then some people are like, "Oh, it doesn't mean anything." I'm just interested in hearing what your guys' opinion on this. I'll start with Reem. We go around the panel.
I don't believe in what the ICJ is doing. I mean, can you guys hear me, or am I?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
No, I'm not convinced. I think I posted about this. I think it's a trial to ease white people's conscience.
Interesting.
Bluntly, because we don't have time to ask these questions right now. These questions should have been asked over the past 75 years. They should have been asked during the Bosnian genocide. They should have been asked before that. So we don't have time to sit around and discuss and experiment and provide theories when we know that a people have a right to resist when they are faced with occupation, colonization, and the level of violence that we're seeing. I'm just going to give you a little bit about my background because I think this is important to.
Go ahead.
I used to be a journalist, and so it was my job to analyze the language used in different spaces in the media, in different circles. I worked in the development sector. I worked with nonprofits, and in the US, I've worked in media both in the US and in the Middle East. So a lot of the language that is being used is, again, it's being used to not only chip away, but to put people asleep and to forget that we have a right to resist, that we have a right to defend ourselves. And that's what's been happening with the ICJ. I think it was just something to buy time. It didn't stop the Israelis from continuing the genocide. We're at what, 40,000 plus? And that's not even the number it's not even an accurate number. It's more than that. And we're hearing that from folks on the ground, the kind of things that we're seeing. You can't imagine the level of violence. So I don't think the ICJ is legitimate at this point, to be honest. I think it's they noticed that things were getting out of hand, that more and more people were like you said earlier in the introduction, that Israel is losing the world. They're losing the narrative. They're losing credibility. And then they were like, okay, let's do something to they still recognize Israel as a state. That in itself should show you that there's something wrong. This court is not for us. It's not going to do anything for us, for our people. Yeah, it's I think it's a joke.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting perspective. And this is kind of why I said in the beginning as well. And I had people like, "Oh, Nick, come on, man, you've been too negative." And once again, I will listen to the Palestinians. I'm not making this shit up. I will listen to the Palestinians on the ground. They was like, "Oh, we're fucked." I'm like, because they're not going to save us. The ICJ is not going to prevent the 40,000 plus, which I think that number is still bullshit. 40,000 plus Palestinians being killed. They're not going to stop it because the UN Security Council will have to approve action, and the United States will veto that. So I'm like, even if the ICJ rule against Israel in the most strongest way possible, the United States will veto any action that need to be taken at the UN Security Council. I explained this in the hotspot video I made at the very beginning of it, and I got feedback. I listened to the feedback. I'm very attentive to, I think, good faith feedback. There were a lot of people that was like, "Oh man, I just think you're good. You're being super negative." Nick, and I'm like, okay, I hear you guys. I can see why this is a good thing, but that's why I think your perspective is very interesting. I would love to hear from more of the panel. We can probably save, and then we can do the go bus run next. I'm sorry if I say your guys' names. I don't feel bad about that. Let's go save next.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll just keep it brief. I want to condition this by saying all international law courts are inherently colonial. Whether it's the ICJ, whether it's the ICC, they are all cut from the same cloth that the imperialists designed in their world order. However, I don't think that the ICJ is going to stop the genocide. I think for that it is a completely useless tool. But as a Marxist-Leninist, I do advocate utilizing a variety of tactics. And I think that the ICJ case is important symbolically in a broader dialectical way, in that it is pointing towards what is probably the number one ally of the United States. The 51st state, if we're being honest here. It is a proxy for American interests being held to the standards of the international law that Washington supposedly promulgates throughout the world. I think it is in the context of specific to Israel and Palestine, it is a smaller symbolic stage in the much broader moment that is starting to delegitimize Israel in the eyes of the world. Is it going to stop anything in the long run? No, but the resistance factions did say that they welcomed the ICJ case. Again, there were a lot of very cringe kind of images circulating online of like a very paternalistic like man in a South African cape being draped in a South African cape helping out like a Palestinian guy on the ground. It was clearly made by AI, but I think that's wrong.
I can see why that annoys you guys. I can see why that can be annoying. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was weird. But I think it's symbolically, it has its place, but I don't think that it should be held up as this monumental achievement when it's not, if that makes any sense. Like, the colonial institutions are never going to stop colonialism itself, but for Israel, which is in many ways an anachronistic colony that is still existing in the 21st century today, to actually be held to some kind of standards by these colonial institutions does speak volumes to just how nakedly brutal it is. Again, I don't want to say that it's important because it's not, but I do think it has a place in the history of the broader struggle, even if it ends up not.
Yeah, I in what you said earlier about these being colonial institutions is 100% on point. But I think it's a very interesting trend with where you have South Africa and Nicaragua, because these are countries who are victims of colonialism. And it's almost like they know, but they got to prove it. You know what I mean? So these countries who are victims of colonialism is trying to expose international law. And they're like, is this shit real or not? Which we all know is not real, but there are a lot of people who are institutionalists that may have to see these cases to acknowledge that. I think there are a lot of people who are realizing that this facade of the rules-based order is exactly that, a facade. Bushra, would love to hear from you, and then we have a few more things we're going to touch up on as well. But go ahead. Your general thought about the ICJ or your reaction to anything anyone said?
Yeah, I mean, no prisoners came out. Not a single centimeter of land was liberated. No refugee was able to return permanently to their home. So to me, looking at the material reality, nothing was accomplished for our people. I do think it could be a form of agitation, as Saif Sheikh Jarrah was mentioning. But beyond that, also understanding and not reducing the complications of the comprador involved in a lot of the theater that was promoted online, in that the Palestinian Authority really invested in the media of that case. And in that same spirit, it's also important that we examine who from South Africa was presenting and ask ourselves, is South Africa really liberated right now? And did their participation in anti-apartheid negotiation with their prison guards, as Mandela did, and the funding they accepted from people like George Soros to build up housing, to sink a majority of indigenous South Africans into severe poverty, True down South Africans warn us not to go down that path. And I hear them, and they supported our resistance. But it was the ones who supported our resistance who got squashed by that bought out comprador. And in that same spirit, when we look at these cases, looking at the Palestinian Authority and what they have at stake here is very important, especially because we came to find that the Palestinian Authority was actively trying to destroy Hamas in Gaza just to be able to take over it themselves and continue to serve their masters. So what really was going on here is a question for all of us to ask ourselves as to, if this was to be of benefit to anybody, was there the potential for our most vulnerable to be exploited? We like to celebrate these things because they look good, but in the end, it's our most vulnerable who end up paying the most severe price. And we got to remember to always center our refugees who are along the borders and within Palestine itself wanting to go home, and the thousands of prisoners who are being held hostage right now within the colonial prisons who need to be liberated. When they are not mentioned, then what is this really serving?
Those are fantastic points. Like it's always great to be in conversations with people who can bring perspectives that I haven't really considered before. Because usually I gotta drag motherfuckers to my position. So I am at home on this panel. And speaking of, I'm very interested in hearing your guys' thoughts on this. I'm gonna show you guys a few things first, and I'm gonna give you guys thoughts on this, because the narrative that's coming from the liberals and professional managerial class who are trying to convince themselves that the Democratic Party is worth a damn is that Biden is a victim of Benjamin Netanyahu extremism. That Biden want to rein in. I know you guys heard this. Biden want to rein in Netanyahu, but there's nothing he can do. We know why that's bullshit. I said it before, and when I pass you guys can give your overall thoughts. I said it before. I think Biden cutting aid to UNRWA during this famine is probably the most evil thing a politician did in my lifetime. Like, what's worse than that? And then you have this as well. The United States has seen no evidence that Israel committed a genocide. Now, I almost don't even want to insult your guys' intelligence by even having you to rebuke that. I don't even want, so you guys can touch on that when I pass to you if you want to. I don't want to insult your intelligence. It's a fucking ridiculous thing to say. This is why I really want to ask you guys back. Feel free to chime in on anything I mentioned here. You guys see the condescending attitude of liberalism, which I despise. I said many times before, I despise liberalism with every ounce of my core. Liberalism led to a genocide. And I said in my tweet here, why is it so hard for liberals to just shut the fuck up and listen? So you guys can respond to anything I just showed you guys here. I want to go around the panel in a very vague way. I'm asking you guys about the abandoned Biden movement and liberals wagging their finger at you guys. So I guess I want you guys to take it multiple ways. You guys can talk about the abandoned Biden movement, your thoughts on that, and just this general mindset. If you're listening only, I'm going to read the headline of this. If you only listening, look at this headline. Do Arab American and Muslim voters really want to elect Trump? For one, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before I pass the panel, because I know you guys are probably fuming. I am very annoyed by this liberal tactic, and you've seen Biden and Bernie do this as well, where they're pretending that only Muslims care about the genocide. Now, only Palestinians care about the genocide. I have a wild number to show you guys later. Black and brown people don't fuck with Israel, but they try to pretend that it's only the Muslims. You only have to be a Muslim to speak out against this. Do you guys know how much this disgusts the black community? I have people who don't follow politics that know that I follow politics. Like, Nick, what's going on in Gaza, bro? But anyway, I pass to the panel. I'm gonna go opposite order, but feel free to chime in. We're having a conversation. Feel free to chime in if you feel a good time to. But let's start with Bushra first. If you have anything you want to chime in on, there's a lot there, but I pass to you for any vague thoughts.
I'm like shaking right now because the word there, that's like Muslim, and this agenda to treat Muslims as some like monolith, as if there's not elitist Muslims here who benefit from war and capitalism And we are seeing this, and we're fighting against this within our communities. It was Ramadan, and we were seeing feds and Zionists being invited to local masjids or mosques as guest speakers or guests to breaking the fast. And we're like, what's going on? There's a capitalist interest shared with these oppressors on our backs. So when you see a headline like this, it's very telling to me that they specifically mention Muslim voters. Because it's that elite class of Muslims right now that we see extremely involved in a lot of the, in my opinion, traitorous, cowardly, backward. I'm going to go as far as to say munafiq. I'm saying that as a Muslim, munafiqun behavior, which basically means hypocrites, where they're looking at their material interests before they look at the principles. So this kind of propaganda right here is very interesting. And for the innocent Arab or Muslim, they're going to read this and it's going to target them. But I think that's some of the work that we try to do here, like some of us on this panel, is to get resources out to our community and educate them so they know why they're being targeted and just how much power they potentially hold if they do fall for this kind of agenda, or if they start to refuse and hold a more principled line and safeguard our communities from this type of what I see infiltration by liberal agendas and lobbies.
We gotta have Bushra. You are I'm greatly enjoying your comments because you sound like me when I talk about the Black community.
there's commonalities, you know, and I've held, and I to my closer circle, you know, I'll be honest, I feel like in some way our communities, you know, haven't studied or maybe came here within their own trauma, that they didn't have the ability or the capacity to maybe look at what was happening. And this is no excuse by all means. In fact, I don't know how to say this, but it just pisses me off sometimes that we don't look around and see what occurred with the Black community. Is these tactics were exercised on the Black community, and these tactics continue today. But we're so isolated from each other sometimes that we don't see those similarities and we just fall for it. You know, just like we have the Palestinian Authority and the Hussam Zumluts on Instagram and these so-called elected officials to speak on our behalf. We saw the Al Sharptons, we saw the Jesse Jacksons do that. We saw Barack Obama come up. You know, they don't represent the street or the struggle, but they were bought out for their color and their skin and the name. And we're seeing that with our people, with Muslims or Arab or Palestinian, is that objectification and exploitation of identity. And that is a key liberal tactic that we all have to be wary of. And if we can tap into that as a collective across our communities and recognize that, they will be powerless. But it's those weak ones within our community that are like giving the snakes an inlet into our homes.
You know, the first Substack article I wrote, I think did pretty well, was about my criticism of how neoliberalism infected the Black community. How we went from embracing Marxist-Leninist organizations like the Black Panthers and socialism like MLK, and being anti-capitalist like Malcolm X, who said, if you find a capitalist, you find a cockroach. Like, our community was strongly anti-capitalist, and then we became neoliberals over the period of the 60s to now, which led to racial income inequality between Black and white people being worse right now than the height of the civil rights era. So I don't want to get on the rant because you guys know I can on this. Like, this is what I do. I critique the Black bourgeois, and that's why your comments are very interesting, because it's very rare for me to hear that revolutionary critique of the Muslim community. Obviously, I can't make it as efficiently. So anyway, I'm passing to the rest of the panel. I think I saw Reem unmute. But so Reem, feel free to chime in. Whoever have anything want to chime in on before I have one more quick. Go ahead, Reem.
I would just say, look at the language being used and it the way it's framed in the article and the headline. I didn't read the entire article, but I can tell you from just the headline that they're trying to not only pin us against each other, but pin us against everyone else in the United States. So if Trump is in power, blame it on the Muslims. And this is like a classic imperial script that they've been, you know, I don't believe in voting. I don't believe in giving any credit to this system whatsoever, whether it's blue or red or Bernie, who is a Zionist, by the way. You know, even when I was younger, I fell for Bernie. Literally, maybe for a year, I was a fan, and after that, I just, you know, the rug was ripped from underneath me, and he's a diehard Zionist. And it's
Yeah.
only when you start asking the right questions and picking away at the language that they're using and critiquing what you're seeing in the media that you start to understand where this is all going. There's a lot of tricks out there. There's a lot of Bernie is a psyop. Bernie is a psyop, a huge psyop. And I know a lot of people are gonna, you know, go crazy if they hear me say this, but you
Not in this
know,
community.
not in
This
this
is a I'm loving it. This
Yeah.
definitely gonna be a thing because I'm loving what I'm hearing from everyone here. Like this is right up our alley. This is the first time we're meeting and we like almost like we've been in conversation forever. But I love what I'm hearing. Go ahead, Ren. Because trust me, don't get me started on Bernie either. I worked on this campaign. Don't get me started. I hate these people. I hate these people. But go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Raheem. Go ahead, Raheem.
No, you're good. No, sometimes, like Bushra said, like sometimes the weak people in the community, you got to also look at it from you know, they're colonized, mentally colonized, because the way all of this is framed, they're treated like the good Muslim. When they go into these circles, they'll never be one of them. The liberals will never fully accept them into their circles, by the way. They'll
Look at
never.
Mehdi Hassan. Look at Mehdi Hassan.
Exactly.
Who's as milquetoast as it come. But he said he finally said he did a few good segments questioning Israeli officials. That was enough to get his ass fired. But anyway, go ahead, Raheem.
Yeah, no, they never fully accept us into their, no matter how much we try to water ourselves down. Like, and then you just put yourself in this situation where you gain money, but so what? You lose your community and you lose your self-respect. And you lose your own sovereignty and your autonomy over what? Over just being a good Muslim. They don't want to be labeled as like the sort of comments that we get on social media when we criticize, you know, this propaganda. Our own people are saying, how could you say this? Why can't you be thankful that you have an ally like Bernie? Why can't you be thankful you have a Democratic president like Biden? Come on, are we really going to forget that Biden is a pedophile? Are we really not going to talk about that just because he's a Democrat?
Read Ashley Biden's diary. By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you guys know they arrested the person who leaked the Ashley Biden diary. They got sent to prison. So that shows that the Biden that diary is real. If you guys don't know what that diary said, I'm saying this to back what you set up. In that diary, Ashley explained how her dad molested her and used to shower with her. Like, so and the person who leaked that was arrested. But it's a real thing. So she's not exaggerating. Biden's a fucking molester. But go ahead, Raheem. A lot of great points.
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to say. I just really want to encourage people to continue. Everyone I know in this circle is doing that, and I just want to encourage anyone who listens or just continue to look at the language. And even as a former journalist and someone who's worked in these spaces, like I have to read it over and over again sometimes myself to really grasp what they're trying to say between the lines. There's a lot of psychological warfare out there targeting not only our people as Muslims, as Palestinians, as Black people, as Indigenous folks. It's against everyone. But when you've been around abusive people, you tend to, some people call it a defense mechanism, but when you've been the minority, when you've been the woman of color, when you've been the Muslim, Black sheep that they're talking about in these headlines, you tend to pay attention to these things. And I just encourage people to really pay attention to that these days.
I think Save is the last one we didn't get to. Save, anything else you want to add to this conversation? I know we all over the place at this point. I know you have a lot of thoughts, so I'll just pass it to you very vaguely.
No, I mean, yeah, all I'll say is that all these articles about, will the Arab vote abandon Biden, or will the Muslims put Trump in office? This is the classic example of what liberalism does, which is remove the class element of any society. It paints America as just this mosaic of different communities that are all on an equal footing, that just sort of, try to work in harmony to the betterment of the country. It misses the fact that, like Bushra was saying, there is a class element in everything. There is a comprador class in the US, just as there is a comprador class in the West Bank. And that's one of the more, I think, insidious captures that we see is even this abandoned Biden movement. There was an article from a very reputable journal that actually ended up archiving it. I forget why, but it talked about how even this what's that campaign, uncommitted campaign is just essentially a shadow effort by Democratic operatives to push Biden, or at least to give the illusion that Biden has done his diligence on Gaza if and when he eventually calls for a ceasefire, which, if he doesn't at this point, is political suicide. Let's be abundantly clear on that, for many reasons, not just for his electoral prospects. But there's even you see it now with Chuck Schumer too, with his attempt to say that Netanyahu is the problem, to sort of scapegoat the fact that what Israel is doing in Gaza has parallels and precedent throughout the entirety of its history. It came to be through genocide and through ethnic cleansing. And guess what? The worst of it happened, the Nakba happened under the labor Zionist government, under, Zionists that were supposedly, quote, left-wing, unquote. And that Netanyahu is carrying out this brutal genocidal war purely for his own political survival and to appease the far-right elements of his cabinet doesn't make much of a difference. Yeah, and then you see here what you're seeing. You're pulling up the AOC. Oh my God, yeah. See, if AOC endorses something, it's suspect. Like if AOC,
Ro Khanna, all those swamp monsters came in and was like, "Oh, this uncommitted thing is the best thing ever." I said before, I think a lot of people who are voting uncommitted, I think they have revolutionary potential. Yes. I think the professional managerial class is using this as a Hail Mary, and I will be very disappointed if anyone fall for it. But my position right now, maybe I might be wrong. My position right now, I don't think people are going to fall for it. Like this thing where they're trying to turn it into voting for Biden. But anyway, I want you to finish your thoughts, Save, and I'll pass to Ashley after that.
No, all I'll say is, because you sort of alluded to this at the beginning, I see a lot of parallels to this in 2020. I see a lot of very well-meaning people who are galvanized by the horrors that they're seeing and have a genuine indignation are being co-opted into these liberal solutions that end up only sort of, perpetuating the same cycles of harm and systems of oppression. And I do think that from abandoned Biden to voting uncommitted, it's the same capture that we see. I'm not saying that, in the US per se, we're dealing with very different material conditions. We need to educate people. We need to get them to a more firm anti-colonial understanding of the situation. But again, the second that AOC tries to say anything, and I want to be clear, Bernie sucks. AOC is to the right of Bernie in a lot of respects. Bernie believes in what he's doing. AOC is a shameless careerist through and through. She is like
I heard from a lot of people, and I seen Bernie's early politics. Bernie used to speak up against Ronald Reagan's death squads in the global south. He used to get called a I'm blanking right now, but he used to get called an anti-American traitor. Yeah, a red.
He honeymooned in Moscow, like during the Soviet years. Like he believes. I've said this a lot about Bernie. He's one of the only politicians in the U.S. who actually has principles, but that doesn't mean that they're good principles. Like he lived.
The point I was making is I think there was a point where Bernie tried to fight but then he sold out. And that's what Mike Rennie talk about. I think it was around the late 90s where he's like, fuck it. I quit. Because you can see he was a lot more principled. I mean, he wasn't perfect, especially on Israel. He was always a Zionist. But he was better than he was now. He gave up. This is the difference between Bernie and AOC to me. At least Bernie had that like appearance for like a decade or so where he fought and he gave up. AOC, you guys see how fast she gave up? Like there wasn't even an appearance where she was ever an oppositional figure. Go ahead, say. I'll let you finish your thought, and we get Ashley in here.
No, I'm just saying, like Bernie, he has been a Zionist. He is the perfect example of what they call a labor Zionist, which is a left Zionist. He lived on a kibbutz, and just like we're seeing now, I mean, there's no such thing as an Israeli leftist. Let's be abundantly clear on that. In Israel, there was for a time. I'm not saying they were ever pro-Palestine. There used to be a left wing of Zionism that is vanished now because the indoctrination that Israel has committed to in its schools. The great. You should read him critically, but Ilan Pappé wrote about this in like the early 2000s that the new generation of Israelis would be the most militant and right-wing and murderous that the country had ever seen because of the education curriculum that they were implementing. And he's been proven correct. There's not a single dissenting voice in Israel right now against this war. There are people who want Netanyahu out because they think he's the problem, but not a single person in Israel proper, not a single settler opposes the war on principle or opposes what's being done to Gaza. And there's all of the left-wing Zionists are in the U.S. It's Chuck Schumer. It's Bernie Sanders. It's AOC. They're the people who want Israel to keep existing, who want there to be a slow genocide as opposed to an immediate one.
The idea of a left-wing Israeli is probably the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, you guys realize that poll showed that only 2% of Israelis thought they was bombing Gaza too much. The left-wing position of Israel is that we should kill all the Palestinians. That's the left-wing position. They have no problem with Netanyahu. In fact, the oppositional party to the Likud party said that we are 100% behind Netanyahu. I quoted that a few months ago. There's no opposition there. Ashley, any thoughts on the Bannon Biden movement? And then I want to get Bushra in here, and we can wrap up here very soon.
I can talk a lot about it, but I know we're running out of time, so I will just I'll probably talk very quickly. Several thoughts. Okay, so first of all, if Bannon Biden / uncommitted / uninstructed, they're all the same thing. I saw it like right when it came out. Okay, so basically, if you think about 2016, it was vote blue no matter who. If you think about 2020, it was this like vote Trump out campaign. Each time, all it was just a way to get you to vote for the Democrat without actually telling you to vote for the Democrat, because they know they couldn't sell them because they were horseshit, right? So they say vote Trump out, not vote for Biden. They say vote blue no matter who because we're going to end up cheating and putting Hillary in as the thing anyway. But there's like studies that actually show that if you get people to pledge to vote, they're significantly more likely to vote. So I saw it personally from a mile away. It was this. They know they can't sell us Biden. I mean, are you serious? They can't sell us Biden right now, or anyone. Just to be clear, I am completely anti-electoralism. Okay, just to be very clear about that. But what I'm trying to get at here, first of all, it incenses me. It makes my blood boil thinking about the fact that they are literally using this contrived fake grassroots movement. They are exploiting our people's blood, the martyrs' blood. They're exploiting the sacrifices they have made to try to sell people, the very people that are spilling the blood. They're trying to sell us Biden by saying stop the genocide. They're saying stop the genocide, vote uninstructed. But ultimately, the goal is, by the way, the goal of that movement was to vote for Biden. You can see it on their website. It literally says, how can we get you to vote for Biden? The only point of that is to get you to vote blue in November. And anyway, I have a theory that probably Biden's either going to get sick or he's going to die, or he's going to step down or something, and they're going to shove Kamala in, and that's who's going to be the blue, and that's why they're doing this whole thing. That's my own theory, to be clear. But I want to say one more thing too. This whole uninstructed, uncommitted thing, everyone, they try to call it grassroots, they try to call it whatever. That's a fucking lie. I'm sorry. Like, I was so angry about it. You know, FEC.gov, the super PAC is called Listen to Us. Last I checked, it was well over $300,000 just in a span of a little over a month, maybe a month and a half, that they spent on this so-called grassroots movement. All these groups connected to the Democrats, these dark money groups that are funding it. They're paying students here where we live in Madison $25 an hour. They already voted $25 an hour to freaking work for this. Like, that grassroots, are you serious? Like, no grassroots group can pay people that. Like, this was literally funded by the Democrats. It was a fake protest campaign to make people feel like they were doing something good. It's just to channel that energy and to channel that rage into action, as opposed to actually doing something remotely revolutionary. It's just try to do a protest vote. Sorry, that's it.
No, that's, once again, this is right down my alley. Like, this is something that we definitely have to do again, because we are just I made an outline and we made about halfway through the outline at this point. So we definitely had a lot to talk about, and I would love to have you guys back on. I have a few more quick things I want to show you guys. I definitely want to show you guys these few things real quick though. I saw this bit. I think this bit is a great response to the live vote shaming. And when I saw this bit, I was surprised because comedians are shit libs. Comedians are horrible generally in the West. But I think you guys will agree. I think it's a decent take. Maybe you guys might disagree with me. Let's listen to this, because this is his response to a lot of people want those headlines that you guys see of them blaming Arab Americans for Trump winning the White House potentially.
Want the Democrats to lose. Understandably, a lot of people want the Democrats.
Sorry, let me go back to the beginning here.
A lot of people want the Democrats to lose. Understandably, a lot of people want the Democrats to be punished and to suffer a historic and humiliating defeat. And white liberals are very tense, right? They're like, is that what you really want? Is that what you really want? You want Trump to come back? You want Trump to win? What I want is for you to not lecture us on how to respond to a genocide you didn't try to stop, okay? You think that's a good idea? You think that's a good idea for your community? Because it's your community that's going to suffer if Trump comes back. People like you are going to suffer. What do you think of that? I think that a political system that ultimately makes you choose between genocidal dementia and cheeseburger-powered fake tan Hitler is a system worth overthrowing, okay? Maybe that is the conclusion you should be coming to instead of lecturing black and brown people on why they don't worship the Democrats, okay?
Not gonna see this guy on the Daily Show. I think his career not gonna last that long. I was surprised at this bit. One more thing I'm gonna show you guys. I'm trying to go through this quickly just for a second time. It's kind of almost not a mini segment, but I definitely want to show our audience this. I was doing my research for my hotspot video I made this morning, and I found this number that I found extremely interesting, because I've been making a point, and white people have been very upset at me for doing this, because they're this thing where people talk about the age gap, because it's easy to talk about as Zionists, the age gap, because you can convince boomers that, oh, the fucking dumb young kids are terrorist sympathizers. So you guys notice they focus on the age gap instead of the racial gap, because there's a reason why they do that. Because when you highlight the fact that Zionism is driven by white people who support colonialism, then the issue becomes way less complicated than they paint it as. You know how they say the Israel-Palestine issue is complicated? No, it is not. This is an issue of colonialism. White people support colonialism. Black and brown people oppose colonialism. That is why there's been a long time standing relationship between the Black Panthers, radical black organizations, South Africans, and the Palestinians. And now you got Latinos that's turning against Israel's siege. I'm gonna read this, and I'm gonna give you guys a general reaction, and we can be. This is the last thing I absolutely want to show you guys this, because I found this crazy. In this poll, only 16% of Latinos said the United States should continue to fund Israel with arms and munitions and funds in general. Do you guys know how crazy authoritarian our government is? When you have our population that is essentially begging our government not to arm this terrorist state, but they do it anyway? 16%, that's a wild number. And this is continuing this trend that, once again, white people don't want us to talk about. The fact that generally, when you look at this issue, it's an issue of colonialism, who get it right and who don't. A lot of people want to talk about the age gap, but a lot of people don't understand that black and brown people see what's going on in Gaza, and it makes our skin crawl. Another reason why I think it's ridiculous for them to paint it as only Arab Americans that being upset at this. I'm going to open up to the panel. Feel free to chime in. We can anyone who wants to chime in. I'm going once, going twice before we move on.
I just want to say something real quick. I think Zionists have long identified, again, how they've exploited identity. And it's very clear here, identity serves a role, and that identity linkage to class is important also to note. In response to this, I think that's why you're seeing formations like the so-called Squad under the arms of Bernie Sanders and their liberal Zionist funders formulate, because their identities present something to show that, hey, we can take a middle ground and still be pro-Israel. And even that is failing. I mean, here alone we've heard, and we do see the chat. I have been looking at the chat for those who asked, but I think a lot of people are noticing the clowns that just put on the mask and play the game and put on the performance. And so right now, I just want to warn the audience that there's another propaganda agenda that we saw take mainstream today on Vox, but has been formulating for several years now, in what a lot of Zionists are promoting as the Mizrahi identity. This is a made-up identity that's tied directly to the creation of the Zionist colony. And essentially what a Mizrahi is could be anybody who is Arab, Levantine, Iranian, Turkish, but essentially Mizrahi means Arab passing. And their role in the early stages and through today has been violent. They make up a big amount, a majority of the settlers within so-called Israel. So here you see the liberal Zionists promoting, a Zionism is white supremacy kind of language to really dilute and simplify the dynamics of their agenda and how they exploit identity. Right now, the Mizrahi identity is becoming a very highly invested agenda by folks at J Street, if not now, JVP, and they're hoping that by promoting this identity, they can say, hey, some of us are Arab. We're just like you. We want to stay. Let's build together, without any form of land return, reparations, liberation for our prisoners. And so I think they do recognize that people of color know what it is to be oppressed. And they also know what it is to have traitors amongst them, sellouts, snitches, whatever you want to call them. And this promotion of the Mizrahi agenda, I think, is a very desperate measure by Zionists to try to show, hey, we can also be people of color too, or BIPOC, or whatever phrase they want to use. We're like you. I mean, Bernie Sanders went so far as to say he marched in the civil rights movement. But when we come back and look at his stances, it's always a litmus test. You can always tell a person's principles and who they are based on their position when it comes to the Zionist entity. And I'm really sorry so many people were duped. But if you looked at that initially, it would have been clear from the get-go. The dude is not for the working class. The dude is not for any of our liberation. He's one on a spectrum of many to get us corralled into a certain agenda, and that's it. So as a Palestinian who's lived in Palestine, me looking at this political system, I don't give a fuck. It's all oppressive to me. It's the enemy. My vote, if I were to write something in, Abu Ubaidah, all the way.
Well said.
I just add to that really quickly. One thing
Reem.
notice is that the Mizrahi, they'll always try to position them to talk over us. They're always positioning to talk over us. And they started pulling out that Mizrahi card over the past, I would say 5 years is when I really noticed it, but more it was more intense in the past couple of years because they started realizing that they're really losing the narrative. But now they're talking over us, and the liberal Zionists who claim to be Jewish allies are also being pushed to talk over us, and they're constantly centering their experiences, especially.
Yeah, it is true. That is absolute. I noticed that too. Like these. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let you finish.
I like
I absolutely noticed that.
if you can you imagine like if a German ally came out during the Holocaust and was centering the fact that they're an ally and centering their own community. Oh, I'm doing this for the Jews, and I'm doing this for the Jews, and I'm saving Jews from Nazis. If they were doing that during that time, they would have been called anti-Semites. You're anti-Semitic. You're this. You're that. It's just there's a lot of wayward behavior happening, a lot of psyops, and people really need to be careful with who they trust in these movements. If someone is speaking over a principled Palestinian, a principled Muslim who understands the Sawabit, the principles of the liberation movement and the resistance, then there's something wrong there.
Well said. This was a great conversation. I see you save. I know sometimes StreamYard boosts you guys. I'll put you back in. Sorry, but I think we can wrap up here. We're about 9 minutes, a little bit longer than I planned, but it was a great conversation. I definitely would love to have you guys back on RBN. I learned a lot, as I always do, whenever Ashley brings me these amazing guests. So I appreciate your help and you guys attending. I pass it to. I guess I'll pass to Ashley first. Like, I won't give last thoughts. Anything you guys want to wrap on? Anything you guys want to promote? I pass it to the panel. I want to end it on something you guys want to promote. Bashar, Reem, Save, Ashley. Any last things? Any last words or anything you want to promote before you wrap up? Going once, going twice.
I'll just quickly, and this is like kind of low on the priority list because if there's anything like any GoFundMe's or anything that someone is thinking of that I can't think of right now, please drop it in here. But quickly, I just wanted to throw out there's something called Week for Palestine happening. You can follow there's various cities in the U.S. U.S. is in Turtle Island and various places throughout the world that are doing this. Follow it if you can. It's on Instagram. It's Week for Palestine. I think it's _US. But then there's the larger account, which is just Week for Palestine. Just follow that, where it's first week of May, and then that's all I have to say. There's a lot more that I could end on, many more things that are probably more useful. So if the rest of y'all think of something that's much better than that, that's more useful, please just throw that in there. Anyway.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining on. Going once, going twice. Bushra, anything you want to add?
I just want to say Eid Mubarak to everyone observing. I know it's a tough Eid. We're not able to really celebrate right now. It's a very somber time. Just keep your heads up and just know we exist and we appreciate your support. And thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Great to have you guys. I'm going to wrap it there. Thank you guys for joining us. I'll pop you guys in the back. Once again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Ashley, for helping us get these guests as well. I'll just acknowledge a few of these super chats that I'll put up on the screen earlier. I just want to acknowledge James for the super chat and super sticker. Hope you guys enjoy this Palestinian activist roundtable. Like I said, I'm gonna try to do a lot more of these. I appreciate it. This is very important that we elevate their voices right now. You guys see, this, they're at home at RBN. We don't have to drag these people to our side. The PMC class hates RBN because our quote unquote litmus test. People say we are too tough on people on these issues. We're too tough on Marianne Williamson. You're too tough on these people on these issues. Do we have to correct any of these people on these issues? You guys see how RBN, we don't have to drag activists to the right position. I'm literally everything they were saying in this panel, I'm like base as hell. Everything. These are the people I'm at home with. I'm done interviewing candidates, presidential candidates. I'm done with the professional managerial class. I'd rather talk to people that I will have on panel, and I'm like, hell yes, instead of trying to drag cornballs over the finish line and get people not to praise Nazis like Alexei Navalny. I'm tired of having people prop up people like Marianne Williamson. And then whenever we criticize the social democrat left, the Bernie left, people think we're unreasonable. But look at this panel. This panel is what the left represents. This panel shows how, like, we don't need, and it's the criticism you heard from people in this panel, the criticism of the professional managerial class in the Muslim community who sold them out. Who I can't make that same criticism. It's the criticism I make of people in my community. I can't make it as elegantly, but it's why it's great for us to stay in community, and why we don't need. And this is the message I have coming into this year, especially after that Dr. Cornel West embarrassment, after the constant embarrassment of the PMC class. I am telling you guys, we don't need them. We don't need them at all. That's why I'm oppositional to those people. I don't need to go on their shows. They don't need to be my guests. We don't need to be friends. We don't have to have a relationship. We have the proletariat. That is it. RBN, we're the only channel not fucking fishing for access. You know, it's the people, only people in our community are the people who want to be in our community. All the candidates who ask to come on our show. And that's my approach coming on. I'm saying this because I greatly enjoy that panel, and I'm definitely going to be harassing Ashley so she can bring them back on. So I'll be back on Saturday. I hope you guys enjoy Nick at Night Tonight. Got a very powerful activist panel on for you guys on tonight. I'm releasing 4 hotspot videos a week now. On top of panel, you guys know how to do banger after banger, banger after 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 banger. Make sure you guys subscribe. Have a good one, guys.